Hello and welcome to This Is Us. I'm Becca King-Reed. This week we're at the International Culinary Center in Campbell. And boy, have we cooked up some treats for you. First, we're going to be making a famous French pastry with an American twist and plenty of chocolate. We'll also meet three of the finest chefs in the Bay Area. Santa Cruz's Reilly Meehan, the very first American and youngest person to be named Best Young Chef in the World. Chef Charles Phan, owner of the famed Slanted Door restaurant in San Francisco, world-renowned for its home-style Vietnamese cooking. And finally, Richard Donnelly, one of the best chocolatiers in the nation. I hope you brought your appetite. We've got a lot of great food to share, and it all starts now.
This is us.
This is us. This is us.
Welcome back to the International Culinary Center in Campbell, California. I am joined by pastry chef Jansen Chan, and you are really renowned for your pastry, so we're very excited to have you here. Show us what you're going to make today.
Well, hello. Thank you for coming here. I'm going to make today a version of the Paris-Brest. It's a classic French pastry.
Ooh la la.
So what we have here is a modern version with a more American palate. It's made with bananas and chocolate.
Ooh, who
And these
doesn't
are-
like that?
Exactly. So I'm going to show you all the steps today, how to make it today,
Okay.
and something maybe you could try at home.
All right, so take notes. Here we
Yes.
go. What do we do first?
So this has a very unusual thing where we actually make a bit of a crust for the pastry, which I'm going
Okay.
to show next. So what we have here is creaming, sugar, and butter right now. And I'm going to
Okay.
add some dry ingredients.
All right.
In this case, I'm using flour and cocoa because I want a chocolate crust, but you can do it without the chocolate.
Oh no. No one would ever want to do it without
Yeah.
the chocolate.
And what we're going to do is we're going to roll it really, really thin so that we don't have too much of a thick crust on
Okay.
top of our dough.
And does it poof up?
Yes, when we make the cabbage dough, patachoux, it's going to expand, and at the same time, this is going to melt directly on top and form an extra crispy crust.
So it doesn't sound very good, cabbage dough. Can you, that's about the shape, right?
Cabbage dough,
not,
which is
not
what we're
it's
going to make
made of?
next, patachoux. Patachoux, it's actually named after that because of the way it grows in the oven. Like a cabbage
It just,
expands in the oven, almost like leaves, and it gets bigger and bigger. So what we do is here, we take this dough, mush it together, and we're just going to take the rolling pin and spread it really, really thin.
okay.
Again, the idea to make it really thin is to help give a nice thin little crust. Okay, so this just gets slid right onto a sheet tray and put in the refrigerator so it gets nice and cold.
Nice and cold. Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right, what's the next step?
so we're gonna make the dough now. So we're gonna off the heat. We're gonna add the flour to the liquids, and this is the first time cooking. We're gonna
Alright.
cook it right on the stove. So we're gonna stir to combine. So once it's all combined, we cook it on the stove just to cook the flour.
Okay.
This actually
Wow.
gives it a little bit more stability so it can actually hold more eggs. And the more eggs, the eggs are what's leavening this dough.
So there's no baking soda?
There's nothing
no-
like that at all.
okay.
No chemicals at all. Eggs are going to do all the work.
Okay, no chemistry.
So,
All right.
See, it's hot.
So
And
it-
so
yeah.
we're
So
going to do
there's-
this on the machine because
So
it's a
when
little
you
bit easier.
throw the eggs into the hot dough, is there a danger of cooking?
There is and there isn't. We can add the eggs
Okay.
very slowly, and
All
they're
right.
fine. They're not going to scramble. So what we're going to do is add the dough, the eggs, and finish it off. Got a piping bag with a tube tip. The reason why I use the piping tip is a lot easier to control this dough because the dough can be a little bit
So it
difficult.
doesn't. So you're actually building a little height there.
I am. I want the center to be a little bit taller than the edges
Okay.
to give it more of a vaulted look.
Cool.
And now we're going to get back the crust.
All right. Here's
Right.
our cold crust.
Yes, a nice cold crust. It's on the parchment paper, so what we do is we release it.
It looks very chocolatey.
It is. And it's very thin,
Wow, it is
you
thin.
can see. So it's really as simple as this. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to bake on. So we have this, and it goes right on top like that.
Ah. Okay, so now,
So now we're going to put that in the oven,
oven,
bake
okay.
that, and then next we're going to show you the filling.
okay, so when we come back, we're going to take a look at the filling. In the meantime, we're going to make an apple pie with the best young chef in the world.
My senior year of high school, I got a scholarship that led me to go to the Professional Culinary Institute. And from there, I became the best young chef in the world when I competed in Turkey to represent the United States. and now I'm off to the Culinary Olympics in 2012 with my team.
Reilly Meehan fell in love with food at an early age.
When Reilly was really little and he didn't know how to, use the pots and pans and the stove and oven and all that, he would create in a bowl what he called poison, and that was different spices. And he went through enormous amounts of expensive spices making these poisons. And he enjoyed it so much I couldn't stop him.
He would just mix everything together. He was a mixologist and just go in the drawers and take all the spices out and mix it all together.
As much as my parents hated it, I loved mixing together spices, making a mess, and making poison.
I saw Reilly's interest in cooking really exploding as he was watching the cooking shows, mainly the Iron Chef.
I remember watching a 24-hour marathon of the Japanese Iron Chef. I literally watched all 24 hours of it, much to my parents' dismay, but I loved it so much, and I remember calling up my aunt, who's very artistic, and just asking her, begging her to make me this Morimoto, this Iron Chef costume.
I mean, he was just in heaven. Iron Chef for Halloween.
The first competition Reilly was ever in was a pie competition at the Santa Cruz County Fair. And he made this beautiful lattice top peach pie.
I remember making the pie and spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes doing each little lattice on the top.
That was his first big competition and his first big win.
Winning the pie contest definitely pushed me to keep competing.
And that's exactly what this little Iron Chef did.
The first time I met Reilly, he was doing the Professional Culinary Institute high school competition. He was kind of a little shy, so he didn't really necessarily stand out at the time, but then his food standed out, and he was able to achieve second place and win, for the most part, a partial scholarship to come to the Professional Culinary Institute.
When I found out that I got this scholarship, I was just overjoyed. It's that validation, those extra hours, extra minutes in the kitchen, they really paid off.
Oh, when I found out Reilly got the scholarship, it was just like, oh my gosh, it was amazing.
I had one of the best experiences of my life at culinary school, and it's something that I would never trade.
When he was in school, he was exactly kind of the attitude that you see in him. It's this fun-loving guy, this kind of free spirit. At first, I wasn't sure how serious he would be, but then every time you'd kind of knock him down a little something, he would come right back at you.
Chef Randy has made me understand how to treat food, and I think that's one of the most important things that a chef can learn. He has such respect for his ingredients, and I think that really shows in the outcome, the product.
We want to make it smaller in size, but we're going to really look for some real crispiness this week.
From culinary school, Reilly went on to Istanbul, Turkey for the Best Young International Chef competition.
I prepared 3 courses, an appetizer, an entree, and dessert. And all throughout my preparation, there are 3 kitchen judges who are watching you. And after you are finished plating up, your food goes out to the 9 tasting judges. Once my last course went out, the dessert course, I was so relieved. The anticipation before the awards were given out was something I'd never experienced before. I was shaking, I was nervous, I was excited. I mean, even to be just given this opportunity to be there was something incredible, let alone to win it.
Winning the title in Istanbul was a huge deal for, I believe, for Reilly, for a lot of reasons. He was the first American. He was the youngest young cook to ever do this.
I think one of the most misunderstood things about cooking competition is how much skill is really involved in it. Judges love to see different knife cuts, different cooking methods, different techniques and skills that go into a dish that a normal diner might not understand how much time or effort really went into making that component for your plate.
Next stop for Reilly, the 2012 Culinary Olympics in Germany.
For the team that we're taking to Germany, there are 5 members, and I specifically play the role of the pastry chef on the team. To prepare for Germany right now, I basically work on my display, which is a display of desserts.
The day of training would pretty much be, we usually start with a meeting in the morning, talking about what we hope to accomplish for the day. They bring their original ideas based on their last critique from our last practice session, and they go back in the kitchen and remake it. It's very grueling on the individual.
When I get to Germany, I'm hoping to see the best food I've ever seen in my entire life. And I just can't wait to be among other chefs who are as dedicated to their profession as I am.
My wish for Reilly for the Olympics, well, I wish that he would win.
Welcome back to the International Culinary Center in Campbell, California. Chef Jansen Chan and I are making the filling of our fabulous dessert. So what have you done so far? You've got a head start.
So what we have here starting already is the pastry cream. We're gonna make a banana infusion. You wanna put the bananas in and let it infuse for about 15 minutes.
Okay. So you don't cook the bananas in, you just let them be in there. for
Exactly.
flavor.
We don't
And then
want to
remove
add. We
them.
don't want to add the banana body and the fiber to the milk.
Ah,
We're
so
just
no
looking for
fiber,
the
just
flavors.
Flavor, not
Oil.
fiber. Okay,
Exactly. So while that's coming to a boil, we have egg yolks and sugar, which
Okay.
I've been whisking here.
great. Now you've added cornstarch.
Exactly. We've added cornstarch. The starch is what's going to make this give it the body.
Okay.
So it's kind of similar to a pudding, right? An American style pudding.
Okay, it looks great.
Exactly. So what we're going to do is take some of this hot milk,
All right, in it goes.
and in it goes.
You have to
What
be
we're doing
careful
is
with that, or
exactly.
just
We're calling
throw it
this
in there?
this technique tempering. What we
Okay.
have here are egg yolks, which are really sensitive and delicate,
Right.
and they have a tendency to scramble.
Yeah.
So by adding a little bit of the hot mixture,
At a time, then you don't
exactly.
scramble
Now
your
we
eggs.
can add this to this hot pack now.
cool.
And now there's less likelihood of it scrambling.
Okay.
And now we want to bring it back to a boil. So we have this coming to a full boil, so it's nice and cooked. And now we're just going to add the pudding.
Okay, there's the pudding, and then
Exactly. And we're going to use the KitchenAid again to assist. You can do this by hand.
you could do it by hand, but
do it by hand.
just for speed, for our purposes,
Exactly.
we're going to whip it up with the
We're gonna-
KitchenAid.
And one thing nice about doing the butter now at this point is, rather than letting the butter melt, it's going to have that nice air feel that soft butter
It's been
has.
whipped.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now we have this mixing in. Once this comes off the machine, it just gets stored in a bowl with some plastic wrap right on the surface.
While Chef continues to work on his pastry, we're going to take a trip to San Francisco. We're going to go inside the kitchen with Chef Charles Phan, the mastermind behind the famous Vietnamese restaurant, the Slanted Door. Award-winning, acclaimed chef Charles Phan has been firing up the Bay Area's culinary scene for almost 2 decades.
I had this idea in my head for a long time, 10 years of really doing my food.
He opened his doors in 1995 and instantly garnered a loyal following. His mission? Elevate the Asian food dining experience.
I saw a niche. I come from service. I work in a fancy restaurant. I see how it works, and I'm comfortable in service.
Charles's instincts paid off. The Slanted Door sizzled with success, but he was no overnight sensation. Phan's journey began an ocean away. His childhood was spent in Donnelly, Vietnam, a city heavily influenced by the French.
I barely remember, but Mom took me to a French restaurant, and everybody ordered like the casserole, and I was the only guy that ordered the lobster.
Phan's sophisticated palate was evident early on.
Started drinking when I was in like 5 years old. Coffee, I mean, not drinking alcohol. Grandmother would let me dip my cookie into her coffee. And Dad had a general store, so I was grinding coffee. That was my job.
Charles's idyllic upbringing came to a halt when the fall of Saigon forced his family to flee Vietnam on April 30th, 1975.
You know, middle of the night, smuggle out, and when we got to international water, they let us out, and we were bobbing around for about 7 days.
Phan's family landed in Guam and spent 2 years on the island shores before finally leaving for America. In 1977, Charles arrived in the U.S. and had a rude awakening.
We got to San Francisco at 4 in the morning on Jones and Gary. And back then, it was like, you know, the lady worked the street, and it was all over. There was tons of people, car, lights, and you just went to shock. And the apartment was a little, like, oh, God. A 2 studio for 11 people, that was a little much. We used to take a bed and pick it up and move it over. So you had the box frame and the mattress, and all the men on one room and the women in the other room. And that didn't last too long.
The family moved to Chinatown, but still faced the many challenges of immigrant life.
My dad gone from, upper middle class to mopping people's floor. Dad got a job as a janitor with an English pub, and I was exposed to a restaurant. A year later, I was bussing table.
Phan went on to study architecture at UC Berkeley, but his artistic nature led him back to the kitchen. Inspired by the simplicity and freshness of places like Chez Panisse and Zuni Cafe, Charles wanted to introduce Vietnamese cuisine in the same manner.
All right, just figure out how to cook 6 things, because that's all they got, 6 things on the menu. And most Chinese restaurants got about 120.
Marrying design with high-quality ingredients, his innovative concept introduced Americans to modern Vietnamese cuisine. In 2000, a visit by President Clinton solidified his place in the culinary world.
They come on a Sunday unannounced. They say they're from a church group. They want a table for 25. It's like, we don't have table for 25. In 2 hours, you get here, you get here. Next thing you know, sharpshooters on the roof, the whole block got shut down. I was on my way to work. President Clinton came in and ate. The layout is pretty much the same, but this is pretty much where Clinton sat. It was a huge honor to have a president eat your food. I mean, it's really humbling. And one of the things I feel most proud of is just, being immigrant and being Asian, sometimes you feel a little chip on the shoulder saying people don't take you seriously on the design world, your food.
These days, Phan's multi-million-dollar enterprise is serious business. His 7 restaurants pepper the city's landscape and serve almost 1,000 meals a day. The Slanted Door's current location sits on prime real estate, anchoring the historic Ferry Building. On any given day, you'll find a combination of movers and shakers from the financial district and eager tourists vying for a seat.
It has been amazing, I mean, I would never imagine where we are today.
Is this you? Okay, in that case, I'm okay.
Charles Phan has come a long way, from washing dishes to dishing with the elite. A celebrated chef, Phan has cemented his status with an appearance on the granddaddy of all culinary shows, the Food Network's famed Iron Chef series, battling it out with fellow Bay Area chef Kat Cora.
Here we go. They're related to broccoli and...
Fueled by his passion for sustainability, Charles was also featured in the PBS series Chefs Afield, teaching his children the importance of knowing where their food comes from.
For a century, there's a collaboration between the farmer and the chef. I think if you're honest and you bring value to the table, people will appreciate that.
One item you won't find on the menu is this comfort food dish.
One of my favorite at-home, last-minute steamed spare rib with it's called dong choy. It's like a preserved vegetable. And all you gotta do is just boil it for about 2 minutes or so. So now we're gonna marinate it. 30 minutes steaming, get some rice going, saute some vegetable. You really have a meal.
Phan has really raised the culinary bar. He was recognized with the prestigious James Beard Award for Best Chef California 2011.
It makes me happy for, my people, for the country, for Vietnam.
With a slew of restaurants under his belt, a new cookbook on the way, and his charity work, this humble visionary is truly living the American dream.
But really, at the end of the day, at my funeral, I wanted people to say, I made a difference. He really tried. He might not be good, but he tried.
Welcome back. It's finally, for me, the moment I've been waiting for. It's time for chocolate cream, and I know you're going to enjoy it too. Chef Jansen Chan is going to show us how to make it, so take notes.
So this is the second part of the filling that we're making, and it's kind of a take on a ganache. And a ganache is simply just chocolate and cream, but this one's going to be a much lighter version. So if you like chocolate, you're going to love this.
Oh, okay.
So
All right, I'm in love already.
Good quality chocolate melted. We have some cream that's chilled.
Okay, so this is really cold.
Yes, exactly. We're going to add it. you're going to see what you want to do is create an emulsification.
Okay.
That's
it
when
seems
you
like
have
that
a-
would make it really runny.
No, actually what's going to happen is it's going to seize a little bit, but we're suspending the fat and the water together to get a really nice, smooth, shiny product.
And
you
it
see
is,
that?
wow. That
How
looks
creamy that came
that
together.
looks fabulous.
So the second part of this is more cream.
More cream, okay,
That's good.
because you never have enough like butter. You can never have enough
Exactly.
cream.
But with this now we have whipped cream.
Oh,
And now we're
okay.
adding more and more cream to this, and this is cold product and chocolate's warm. So we have to be careful. We don't want the chocolate to seize and form chocolate chunks. So what we're going to do is add a portion of this. In the same way that we made the pastry cream,
Yes.
this kind of tempers the
Sort of
product.
going it in slowly.
Exactly. And I'm going to use the whisk to quickly combine the two
All right.
to get a smoother product.
So the cold cream kind of,
Exactly. And that little bit will help temper that chocolate to bring it down.
and now
To a
the
temperature.
whipped cream. Wow, that's a lot of whipped cream. So you can incorporate quite a bit of cream into the
Exactly.
chocolate.
You can add more, although you will dilute the chocolate flavor, which I know you're probably
You don't want that.
not a big
So
fan of.
you were telling me the secret to this, the secret to doing it well is to use really fine chocolate.
Exactly, and good cream. I mean, really, there's only 2 ingredients in any ganache recipe. And we're just going to finish it with a spatula to make sure we can get all the good chocolate on the bottom mixed in. You see you have this really simple, almost like a mousse. It's not a mousse because we don't use any eggs, so it doesn't have that richness.
Uh-huh.
But the chocolate flavor really shines through. In fact, you want to try a little
Yes, I
before
would
you
love
put
to
it in the
try it.
fridge?
Yes, yes. Okay. Just a tiny taste. Very good. When we come back, we'll assemble the whole dessert. In the meantime, John Gregg drops in on a world-famous chocolatier.
This is not a story for those faint of heart or trying to stay on a diet. In fact, if you don't have the willpower of, say, Hercules, it might be best to leave the room for several minutes. Submitted for your approval. Some of the very best chocolate in the world and the 2 guys who make it all happen at Donnelly's Chocolate in Santa Cruz. Beware, because they could take over the world as we know it using nothing more than cocoa beans, sugar, and vanilla. How good are these guys? Well, National Geographic honored them as one of the 10 best chocolate shops in the entire world in their 10 best of the best. They sell chocolate around the globe, including France, China, Japan, Finland, and there are a couple of Laplanders that are in love with Donnelly's. They've been singled out in articles by Bon Appetit, Cooks Illustrated, the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, and the Washington Post are all true believers. Richard Donnelly may be an award-winning chocolatier, but he actually started out to become an attorney. However, the Massachusetts native went to 3 different colleges in 1 year, and well, the law seemed a bit of a reach. So instead he went to cooking school in France. And even then, he bounced around a bit.
Went to cooking school for a short time, and then I did some apprenticeships, very short, couple week apprenticeships, doing bread, working in a restaurant. I went back to cooking school, and then I went to candy school in Switzerland for just a couple weeks. And then I went to Belgium and I learned how to make chocolate there.
Despite his newfound love of chocolate, success, however, for Richard Donnelly was rather elusive.
I started the business in my parents' kitchen. It was a horrible failure. I'm not the only one to start twice. The first 6 months, we had sales of something like $85. I think probably my mother was 84 of it. And so I just closed it up. And I came back to California. A lot of friends had moved out here. And I was working in a Williams-Sonoma store. And this kitchen here was available. There was a gentleman here doing candy apples. And he was wanting to retire. And I didn't have a whole lot of business experience. I didn't want to have to put a kitchen in. So I bought his kitchen.
Come on in, I'll make you some fudge.
Irresistible chocolate more than made up for Richard's lack of business acumen. Another one of the keys to Richard's 20 years of success is that his older brother Henry gave up being a stockbroker to take up the chocolate trade and help run the business. Whether it's in the kitchen or working the counter, together the 2 brothers have become chocolate impresarios and acclaimed for their delicious handmade chocolates around the world. As we've mentioned, if you're on a diet, well, you can try to drive or walk past Donnelly's, but for some reason, there is this cocoa magnetic compass that continues to lure people inside. The Donnellys have led more people astray than redheads with green eyes. chiefly because you never know whether to stop or go.
It's a fun business. It's hard work. You know, we come in, we work a lot of hours every day. It's great working with my brother. And we, strive to have a consistently first-class product.
Focusing on simple yet sophisticated flavors, the Donnelly's insidious plot to control the world using only chocolate is working. Apparently, true evil never sleeps, and the sinister duo are always looking for ways to making better and better and better chocolate. Henry even admits as much.
We've spent 20 years working on the recipes. We make chocolate every single day. We strive to improve it. We always we don't get very much criticism, but we like constructive criticism. You can't make something great if you don't have great ingredients. We use the finest chocolate, real manufacturing cream. Then we put it together well, and we have a pretty good delivery system. Try that, tell me what you think.
A pretty good delivery system indeed, one bite at a time. Nothing could be more ominous.
Good chocolate is so different than just average chocolate. Less expensive, high sugar, lower cocoa quality. It's so different that when people try it, they don't want to go back. They obviously right away they know a difference. A lot of times they share it with their friends, and that's how word gets spread.
So if you have an uncontrollable sweet tooth, or you're trying to drop a few lbs, be forewarned. Watch yourself if you're in Santa Cruz, because the Donnelly brothers are always up to more mischief, beckoning both the old and the young inside their cozy and aromatic store with a promise of chocolate.
Welcome back. It's time to assemble the dessert. It's so exciting. So what's the next step?
Well, now we have the pâte that's been baked, and you see how that chocolate crust has baked right on.
Well, the cabbage dough looks better than it sounds.
So what we're going to do is just cut it in half. Generally, I just cut it around like a cake.
You're breaking this up in segments, and then
Exactly.
that is what we see on the
Exactly.
finished ones in the front.
So what we're going to do is put the two fillings we've already have made. This is the banana.
So this is the
cream.
banana
It's
that
chilled.
we made earlier.
Exactly. It's
Nice
chilled,
and cold.
and it's in a piping bag.
Okay, and so you just squeeze it on.
Exactly. Simple as this. And what we're going to do is actually top it with some fresh bananas.
Now we're adding the fresh bananas, so that'll be a nice surprise when you bite
Exactly.
in. You'll get a little banana cream and real bananas.
Exactly. So now we need to decorate the inside and add the chocolate cream. So now we're going to add a little bit of contrast. I'm going to just do some fresh whipped cream. We call this just plain creme chantilly. And now we can start decorating
okay.
the tops. So now we have this. What I like also is to stick up the pieces because it gives a little bit of height.
Okay.
Now we're also going to top this off with some chocolate decorations because, it's chocolate dessert.
Because it's chocolate, and we have to have chocolate.
And add some nice structural
Okay.
elements to it. So that's what we have.
Well, I think it's time for us to take a bite. But before we do, I have to say goodnight. Thanks for joining us tonight at the International Culinary Center in Campbell, California. For all of us at This Is Us, I'm Becca King-Reid saying, bon appetit. Let's try. You first.
This is us.